Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
All right, let's welcome everybody out today to the very first episode of 2018, episode 310 of I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name's Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Hollifield.
This episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by Amanda K. Memories. We're going to get into telling you more about her later on in this podcast episode. I want to tell you, though, today on the podcast, we get to sit down and chat with Valerie Cameron-Walker. Valerie is the morning radio DJ on Salt Lake City's B98.7. She is behind Wizarding Dayz. She's a dancer. She's a blogger.
She really does it all.
We're going to get into that on the conversation here, kind of how she had to take a step back and be like, yo, what am I doing here with my life? We're going to get into that conversation here in just a second. But as I mentioned, this is the first episode of 2018. It's a brand new year. We'd love to connect more with our listeners this year. I know Chrissy would like to. I'd like to.
Yes.
So we want to invite you to go to iamsaltlake.com. And what you'll see, you see a contact us button up top. All right. Click that button. You're going to see all kinds of options to connect with us. Email, Facebook. We're going to get on there and update with like our personal Facebooks and Twitters and all of that stuff.
Yeah, you'll be able to find us anywhere.
Because I'm sure a lot of people would love to connect with just you personally, Chrissy.
Oh, I'm so interesting, of course.
Drop us an email. Tell us hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found out about the podcast.
We want to get to know you.
That's one thing in 2018. I want to connect more with more of you. But anyway, with all that being said, we're going to jump into that conversation that we had with Valerie Cameron-Walker as she came over to our office and got to share her story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. If you had less than 30 seconds to tell me about yourself, say we met at a bar and we're talking about the things you're involved with.
Oh, wow.
What would you say you're about? I mean, who is Valerie?
Elevator pitch for me, huh? I have so many different...
Well, you got a ton of things that you're involved in.
I mean, myself, I'm just a crazy, crazy lady. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I watch cartoons. I love carbs. And I will like pretty much do most things that people will ask me to do when it comes to like business.
Sure.
So I'm not afraid to jump. So that's why I do a lot of things. But.
And you're involved with a lot of things. Yeah. And I tried to get some notes here. I might not even touch on everything because I don't know of everything.
Right.
So if there's anything we're not bringing up during this conversation, sure, Valerie, let us know. But when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a dancer, like for sure. I wanted to be Michael Jackson, like really bad. Like I had the jacket, the socks. I watched MTV as much as my mom would let me watch MTV. I had the Thriller movie because it wasn't like a music video. It was like the making of Thriller and then like the aftermath of Thriller.
So you were a big MJ fan.
I had it all on VHS and I would watch it, and I lived in Colorado. I was born in Colorado and I lived there for a little while, but I was like in kindergarten and I loved it. Like I was obsessed with Michael Jackson, and that's how I taught myself how to dance. And it scared me so much, that video, that when he turned into a werewolf, I would go around the corner to the bathroom and I would peek my head out until it wasn't scary anymore. And then I'd go back and watch it. And I would just continue to do that like every day. Like I really
that's so awesome.
wanted to dance and like create. Like I wasn't sure what that world was. So yeah, I wanted to be a dancer. Dance has probably been like the constant in my life, my whole life.
But didn't you eventually open up a dance studio?
Yes.
Then if I was doing a little research on her, and you opened.
Yeah, I mean,
are you still doing that? You're not.
So I haven't danced or taught dance in a regular capacity for about 4 years.
Okay.
But you actually went through and learned dance and studied dance.
Yeah. I really thought that I was going to every little girl wants to be a dancer, right? Most of them want to like be a ballerina or whatever. And I really like, I didn't want to be a ballerina at all. Although I took ballet because that's what they made me take. Because
if you're a girl,
I'm a little white girl
ballet
in Colorado, and they're like, here, you're going to take this ballet class and this tap class. And then when I came to Utah, it was like you took just crazy. It was tap, ballet, and then weird dance classes, just like clogging. I never took clogging. I'm not against cloggers. You're fantastic. But it wasn't for me. They didn't have they had jazz, but it wasn't the same kind of jazz. They didn't have hip hop. Yeah. So when I moved here, my mom would continue to just let me watch MTV. She was so oblivious to the things that I was learning. Sure. Because I was a good kid, but so I was watching MTV and all these adult things around there, but I didn't care. I was like, I love these music videos. My dad was a musician. And so I really thought I could be a musician as well, but
So you must have not grown up in a conservative home.
No. So my mom was the oldest of 8 kids, Italian Catholic. So it's conservative, but in a different way.
Sure.
Yeah. And then my dad, was from here. And just like totally musician. I mean, he was working in clubs and bars playing music in junior high and high school. Like they'd let them come in play here in Utah. Yeah, he lived right down the street from Murray High School, and he'd go to school, he'd play music in clubs until 2 or 3 in the morning, work at a golf course until he had to go to school, and then the same thing again. Like my dad, that's kind of where I got the sure, I'll do it. I'll spill all my time in the day. So I wanted to be a dancer because I tried to be a musician and I just was not good at it. But musically, I could dance, I could edit music, I could teach to music. So that was kind of my thing. And then when I started learning hip hop by watching MTV at 13, I started teaching hip hop because nobody really taught here in Utah. It was, cheerleading, clogging, and ballet
swing
and jazz. Well, that's cool. I taught that too. But yeah, so I was like, hey, I'm 13 and I know how to dance like Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson. And like, I could just see it and repeat it. And so I would teach at several different places, and I did that until I graduated high school. And then I thought, why am I making all of these dance studios rich?
Yeah, why don't you do your own?
So I went to actually my high school, which was Taylorsville High School, and they had an after-school program where all of these classes you could take your kids and adults. You could go learn how to Adobe. You could learn how to scrapbook. And I said, can I teach hip hop classes? And they said, yes, if you'll also teach jazz and ballet to these little kids. And I said, sure.
Did you have to then learn ballet, or did
no?
you
Because I knew it.
Ballet?
I know the basics of ballet. I think every dancer should know the basics of ballet, even if you're a hip hop dancer. It's very important. But so I started an adult dance company out of high school, and just let people come audition. And so, because unless you went to college for it, there wasn't really a place for adults to go dance.
Yeah.
So I did that. I just said, hey, I'm going to do that. So they paid me. So I thought, well, that's great because I like doing it and you're paying me. And then I went over to the Murray Rec Center and I said, hey, can I rent out some space here? I will teach a regular open hip hop class Monday nights at 5:00 if you let me then rent out like my own I can teach whatever I want for these other times. And I taught kids and I taught adults. I don't teach kids anymore. I hate parents.
What is it? Just because they
I love that it's true though.
Are they picky or what is it about?
Oh my gosh!
With
and
parents?
I'm sure it's the same other places, but there's so many talented kids in Utah, and their parents want them to be in everything, and the parents.
Sounds like you, Chrissy. Gotta get my kids in everything. They gotta do everything.
They think that they just have their nose in all of it. If you've ever watched, my daughter's obsessed with Dance Moms.
Oh my gosh, my daughter is too.
That show gives me anxiety. I come in the room
awful.
and she's watching it and she thinks it's fantastic, and I'm going like flashbacks.
Were the moms really
these
that
silver
bad?
hairs right here is from cheerleading camp. Man. Because I had to teach cheerleading one year and that was the worst.
And the moms are just in your business,
the kids,
Yeah.
but the moms are in your business, and I'm like, let me do my job. Because of course they know better than you. And I'm sorry, there wasn't all the moms were not that way. I have relationships now still with moms that I taught their kids when I was a kid. I still have those relationships. It wasn't all bad, but I don't teach kids anymore. I just don't have the patience for parents.
But you still will teach adults.
I will totally teach adults. So it's my goal I've been making more time in my life to get back to dance. I basically overscheduled my life.
That's what I was
and we haven't
thinking.
even gotten into it.
So we're not there yet.
We haven't even gotten into the radio or Wizarding Dayz that you're doing or all.
So I know I talked a lot, but this is all like a good plan to go to because I opened my dance company in Murray Rec Center. I was teaching a Monday night class to just whoever wanted to come. And a lot of it was like Mormon moms coming to learn how to shake their booties. It was like the most fun class ever. And it got like fuller. Like we were packed. Like some people had to wait and they couldn't get in. It was awesome. And I was like 23. My daughter was pretty young, 23, 24 when I did that. And I called up the Trib back when the newspapers were important.
Back when people read them.
And I said, hey, I've got this little dance class and I'm teaching Mormon moms how to shake their butts and they love it. You should come down and cover it, thinking that I'm going to get like this little blurb in like the arts section. They did a 2-page spread on my dance class.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, a little company called Walt Disney called me 2 days after it was in the newspaper. And that changed my life forever.
Wow. And because that's what got you into radio, really, right? With Radio Disney?
Yeah, because I interned for radio when I was in high school. And then I was like film school. And I went directly to film school. And then I came home and got distracted by other things. But yeah, so Disney called me and they said, hey, we Radio Disney here locally. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are, but I'm still young and stupid. No, they're not. And they said, we need a choreographer because it was like High School Musical was really big.
because they're bringing all the people
everything's
here.
About dance.
Yeah.
So they go out as radio and they'd put on a show. Like Radio Disney was 10% radio and 90% promotion, marketing, branding. So I said, sure, Disney, love Disney. You're going to pay me to do it, to teach.
Sure.
So she came and watched one of my classes. She loved it. She hired me. And the first year I worked for Disney was like a struggle because I thought I knew everything.
With dance.
Just in general. I was that punk kid, you know. Everybody goes through that like year or two of your lives where you're like, I have been doing this forever. Let me tell you how to do it. That's how I was telling the Walt Disney Company, right? I'm like, let me tell you. So the first year was a little bit of a struggle because I was like, didn't want to listen. And when you're going to move forward, you need to listen. And the lady who hired me, Ginger, turned into my mentor, which is just like the best thing that ever happened to me. So once I gave in and I started drinking the Kool-Aid, the Disney Kool-Aid, something opened up in my brain and I saw the world.
Like you found yourself growing exponentially.
I just was like, oh, this is what it looks like, you know, because if you're going to learn branding or marketing from anyone, the Walt Disney Company is
probably
the place
a good
to learn
place
it.
To go.
And what was cool about working for them is that if you listened and if you were a sponge, and I tell everybody this now, like just be a sponge because I don't care who you are. You don't know everything.
No.
Right. You might know a lot about this thing and this thing, but you don't know everything. And so I gave in and I was a sponge and I didn't change who I was. I just started adding on to who I was. And I went from being a choreographer to also hosting their live shows. Like, so we'd go out on site, you know, to the zoo or to the whatever, and we'd do a 2-hour just show with dancing and games and all of this stuff. So I did the choreography in that, and then that worked out. So they gave me a radio show. So it was like a community talk show that I would record on Thursdays. We'd play on Sundays. So I got to start interviewing all these people in the community, and I really started learning about what Utah was all about. Because when I was younger, I was like, as soon as I graduate, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I left. I went to USC. I went to USC, and I just was like, I didn't realize what a gem like Utah was until I started, you know, doing
getting involved in the community, finding out the stories. Yeah.
Disney just really taught me that like grassroots and outreach and community involvement and just learning about all these people and letting, you know, working together was like the best way to do business. And I just learned so much. And then they would encourage you, Disney just in general, the company would encourage you to give to the company. So we would be on phone calls every week with like managers from all over the world that were with Disney. It didn't matter how high or low. And we'd be on phone calls and saying, you know, this would be really cool for Phineas and Ferb, and this would be really cool for. So it was just like they wanted the input, and they would pay for me to take Harvard online business classes, and they would pay for me to fly out to Burbank and meet with other managers from all over the Disney company, and we would all learn from each other. Like it was, I was just like, this is really cool. How every company should run.
You weren't kidding. I mean, that article in the Tribune really did. It really did.
Like if I would have waited for somebody to come and say, that's really cool, we should promote it, then I would still be doing that.
Well, I think that happens so often with so many things in life,
Yeah,
whether
you can't wait.
we're a new business or a new podcast, new radio, whatever, you got to put yourself out there.
I'm going to sit behind this table and hope somebody comes and buys
Hope
something.
somebody
That's-
finds
And
me.
especially with the noise in today's culture, the oversaturation of information and access to
It was
things.
a lot easier back then. It was easier and harder. So it was easier that if you put yourself out there and somebody picked you up, more people would see you because there wasn't so much to compete with.
Sure.
However, it was harder to wave your hands and say we're important because it was a little snobbier, I think.
Well, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have social media probably
Facebook
back then.
Facebook just told me we've been friends for 10 years now with Facebook. So we've had that. So for 10 years with Facebook. But I think that with everything that I learned with Disney and with everything that I learned trying to build my company from such a young kid, because I started my own business at 21 and just saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to pretend that I know how to do all of it until I do.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it.
It's taught me a lot because I've failed a lot, which is really important, which this is kind of a spoiler, but there's a really good quote in The Last Jedi about failure. Explains my whole existence.
We'll have to.
Can you say the quote, or is that just too
No,
much?
no.
All right.
It's too big of a spoiler.
I'm going to get it tattooed on my body
We
in
haven't seen
January.
it yet.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Did you like it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We could talk
Yes,
that
yes.
much about it.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. That's fair.
I've heard a lot of people that don't like it.
You know what? I deleted 2 people on Facebook for not liking it the other day. You know what? I didn't. This
Have
is
you
the
deleted
thing.
more people over Star Wars than politics? That's the important question.
This is the thing. I usually don't unfriend anyone, but these 2 people I didn't know very well, and I was like, I don't need that negativity in my life. Delete.
Good for you.
So
you got to do that sometimes.
I just think there are some people out there that are not going to be happy with anything.
Sure.
So if I wouldn't have waved my hands and said, "Hey, look at me," then it wouldn't have happened. And I just can't say that enough for people that are trying to do something, is that it's okay for you to be proud of what you are doing and to tell people about it.
I think a lot of people are afraid of it. I mean, we've talked to even so many people on this podcast that they feel like it's a bad thing to promote themselves.
I
And it's
think
like,
there's
what?
good and bad ways to do it.
Yeah.
I definitely see people promoting themselves too much and
Sure.
it's annoying. And
Sure.
I'm like, you need to stop that. But I
Yeah.
don't tell them unless they ask me. But I definitely think if you're proud of a product that you have, if you're proud of an accomplishment and you are trying to grow your business and you go through the right routes of, connecting with people through a podcast or, calling the Trib or, getting it on your favorite YouTube, whatever, reach out, like do what you have to do to grow your business.
I
for
see what you
sure.
mean, yeah.
And say, I have something good because I had created something that filled a hole. There was not like now you can look 2 feet in front of you and there's a hip hop dance class that
now,
anybody can go to.
I mean, even at the school, my kids are in middle school. We just went to one of their dance classes in school.
Yeah.
Program thing. It's all hip hop.
It's all
They don't
hip-hop
do
now.
any other kind of dancing.
It's all hip hop now.
Yeah.
It's not all good hip hop, but it's all hip hop now.
but they try.
Yes, they do. They do.
So how long did the Radio Disney thing get?
So I worked at Radio
for?
Disney for almost 9 years.
Oh, so for quite a while.
Yeah, so I moved up in the ranks where I was just part-time and doing choreography and then doing shows and then doing the radio thing. And then an opportunity opened to be the promotions director, which I had that wasn't in my frame of thought of anything that I wanted to do, right? And I said, you know what? I really want to do it. And I did it. And that opened my love for events and creating events and putting events together.
Because you started putting events together back then. So you've had a lot of years of doing that.
Yeah.
Like putting events together.
So I did it and I took it and I did that for 3 years before Disney. Radio Disney was like the redheaded stepchild of the Walt Disney Company. They still are. They don't really make any money for Disney, but what it is, it's an arm into the community that helps them promote the brands that they have. But they jumped to digital before anybody jumped to digital. People were like, oh, they're going fully digital. That's never going to work. So they closed down all of their satellite stations and it's now all run out of Burbank and it's all digital. And so that's what they've done. And so
And that's why they left Utah?
yeah, that's why they left. Yeah, because they had 30 satellite stations in different cities that
wow.
were big so that they could get out into the public and hand out the things and do the
Be a
movie
part of
reviews
communities.
Be a part of the community because there's nothing works better than standing in front of the person that you want to be your customer and saying, look at what I can do. When
Yeah.
you're standing in front of them and actually having a conversation, that works better than any kind of marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
So what got you into B90? What is it? 98.7 then, right? Here in Salt Lake City.
So there was a guy that worked with me at Radio Disney that moved to a different radio station. And when he found out that Radio Disney was closing, he told his boss and said, we need this promotions director. Like, we need her. You need to call her. You need to hire her. And that's that. So he called me, and I did not want to work in broadcast radio. Not the same as Radio Disney at all. Like, I was putting on big events and, you know, creativity and all this stuff. And I'm going to go do like car dealerships.
Yeah.
Like, this was
like
just
corporate radio work.
not what I wanted to do. But he took the time to call me. And I think if somebody takes the time to contact you, you should go have a meeting with them. You should never not have a meeting with somebody just to see. So I said, I'm going to go meet this person. I'm going to talk with them. And I'm going to tell them, thank you so much. You know, and now I at least have a contact that I didn't have before. And so I went and met with them, and we had a 2-hour interview. And I said, I don't really want to work in broadcast radio, but I really want to work for him because of what he was doing and how he did things. Because my mentor, Ginger, she's now gone because she went to corporate Burbank. She was Disney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think mentors are very important. You should always be mentoring and have a mentor.
Everyone should have a mentor and be one. Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll latch on to this guy. And so I went there, and I was the promotions director for B98.7 and Cable 93 for 10 months. And when I went on a sales call with one of my sales guys, we went on a sales call for FantasyCon, which I hadn't heard about. But they're like, hey, you worked with Comic-Con. You're nerdy. Go help us get this sale for these spots, right? So I'm like, fine.
You speak nerd.
You're a nerd. And I'm like, okay.
And when was this? How long ago?
So that was 2013 or 14.
Okay,
like
so it wasn't like
FantasyCon,
forever ago.
The first FantasyCon was 2014, and I had worked at the first Comic-Con, which was 2013. And so that kind of all hit at the same time. All this nerd stuff was happening. And so I went to the interview with FantasyCon, and right after that interview, to try and get their business, the owner called me and said, I'd like to interview you for a job here. At
B98.7.
No, because I was working at the B.
Yeah.
I was working at B98.7 and went to try to get sales money out of FantasyCon.
And FantasyCon wanted to take you away.
FantasyCon called me and said, hey, we need an event coordinator for our event because we don't have this, and this. And you seem to know
what's going on.
And this. And it was 4 months to their event. 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
What?
And they still hadn't had it organized. They
had a lot of stuff going on. They had all the shiny, fun things.
Right.
And I'm operations.
Yeah.
And so
the important part.
It's all important.
It is all important.
But yes.
Operations kind of help make everything run smoothly.
So they called me and they offered me more money, and they had dragons. And I was like, more money and dragons?
Sold.
So I quit my job at the radio station because that wasn't my plan. This was more towards what my plan was, plus dragons. They had a freaking 30-foot dragon, right? And I went there and I worked, and it was amazing. FantasyCon is still number one, the best event that I have ever worked at in my entire life.
Are you still involved with FantasyCon at all? No,
I'm not. I don't know where they are in what they're doing with FantasyCon right now, but when they canceled for the third time, because I worked with them and we tried to do the second year, we put the dates up, they canceled, and then we tried to put dates up again, they canceled, so I just kind of had to be like, one, I need to get paid. Two, I need to know where I'm going, right? So after that kind of happened, in that process of working for FantasyCon, I had opened my own events company. So I was running smaller events on the side, like things at Sundance, and I was helping smaller companies kind of run their businesses, because when it comes to logistics and business plans and all of that stuff and marketing, I could go in and say, okay, you're in trouble like this. Here's a plan for you. Help them fix it. And then I leave. I don't want to stay forever. Right. So I was doing all those little things on the side, and I was making a lot of money doing it. I was very,
keeping busy.
I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so after that, I kind of was doing all these little events and everything and having fun. And Dane, who had hired me at B98.7, said, hey, we now have a new morning show. Will you come do movie reviews on Fridays? I'm like, yes, because I want to pretend that
fun,
I
or
want
is
to make
it
a
horrible? Because sometimes you just have to watch awful movies.
It's fun.
Okay.
Because I don't have to be so serious. I can choose and pick and choose. Like, it's not... And the B isn't serious about movie reviewing. They just want to tell moms like what to go see this weekend. So I'm like, sure, right? So great. I went, and I had done like 2 weeks of it, 2 Fridays. And the morning girl quit. And they're like, hey, can you just like come play for a little while till we find someone? I'm like, sure. And they're like, a couple weeks, they're like, do you just want to stay? I'm like, okay. So I slipped and fell into a morning show.
Which, I mean, you're there Monday through Friday, right?
Monday through Friday. So like everybody that's tried to get into morning radio, they've done weekends and nights and like all this crappy stuff.
I mean, that's like the prime spot.
They hate me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's, you know,
but
used
hey,
to
you got it. You got it.
I used to have a bigger dream of radio, but since I've gotten into podcasting, it's kind of like,
stay
here. No.
It's way better.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong. If a morning radio were to approach me,
you're not going to say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no.
This is the cool thing about morning radio is that I'm usually done with my job around 10:30, 11 a.m. So I can still run my own business and see my family and see my kid.
That is really
nice. It sucks having to go to bed at like 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes, or like when I have to stay up late. Like this week just killed me. But I mean, it's...
What time do you have to be to work at?
I get to work at 4:30, so I wake up at 3 a.m.
See, that doesn't sound fun to me.
It's not fun. It doesn't get better either. Because at first, it's a lot of fun. And you wake up on time because you're like, I'm in radio and this is so exciting. And you wake up and you put your makeup on and you get there. Yeah, 2 years later, I wear slippers. I don't put makeup on.
No one's
I like wake up 10 minutes before I have to leave. Like, it's just my morning partner's like, oh, okay. Like nobody sees me.
So for people listening to the podcast right now, if they've never listened, it's 98.7. Can they listen on the internets too?
You can. You can stream at b987.com.
Okay.
You can stream. You can listen on radio. It really is. It is totally my demographic station. Like I am a 38-year-old mom. I've got a teenager. You know, it's kind of that, but we have more male listeners lately than ever because we play like 80s, 90s, and newer music. And I don't know what it is about the males that like the 80s music so much.
Like
Nostalgia,
80s
man.
new wave
No,
or
it's
80s...
like if I had to hear another Madonna song.
Okay, Madonna's cool.
Okay, and it is,
Not
except for when you have to hear it
over.
every morning.
Well,
and then
I'm sure that's the same if you worked at any radio, though.
I mean, I don't know. I think I could listen to The Foo every day.
Yeah.
And I do. But anyway, so it's great. It's fun. It's very similar to Disney because it's an appropriate station. We don't talk about anything. We don't talk about sleazy news. We don't swear. We're not inappropriate.
I don't think you can on any radio, though.
You can.
Could you?
Yeah, on rock stations, you can be a little more risque. But on our station, like we're your happy way to get you to work in the morning. So we're just bright and happy and all of that.
Very clean, family friendly.
Right, which is why I do things that aren't in other places because you can only do so much of that.
You need a little balance sometimes as an adult. Yeah, I agree.
We need to take a quick break real fast, play a message from our sponsor. Then we'll come back, though. We have some more questions for you, Valerie, so hang tight. Do you have an event coming up that you need a photographer? Are you a local business and need pictures for your products? Do you need headshots? Maybe you're a comedian like Chrissy used to be. Hey, we want to invite you to check out the work of local Salt Lake City photographer Amanda DeWolf. You could check out her work. You can get in touch. You can order prints directly right on her website, AmandaKmemories.com. Again, that's Amanda K, K-A-Y, memories.com. If somebody was interested in radio,
right,
what would you tell them to do?
Gosh, I'm the most horrible person to ask because of my relationship with radio has been all accidental and not. It's because
you didn't go to school for it and you didn't put in all this crazy.
I mean, so people it was because of the people that I know and also because, I am a public speaker. And I host events, so I do know how to talk. Plus, I'm Italian. I know how to talk. I think if you really, really want to get into radio at this point in radio, I would never major in broadcasting at this point of where we are in the world of media. I wouldn't. I always tell everyone to major in business and minor in whatever other thing that you want to do. Because if you know how business works, you can weasel your way into whatever job that you want, but it's all about relationships. So go and put in some time as a part-time person at a radio station. They're the person that sets up like the tents and stuff. It pays almost nothing, but it's part-time. Because if you do that, you'll get to know the DJs, the salespeople, and all of that. But at the same time, like, if you know business and you know how to build those relationships, that's how something's going to come out of it. But getting a degree in broadcasting right now, if you want to get into radio, I think is a mistake.
Being involved with radio like you are, do you feel like your job is constantly threatened? Do you feel like radio is going to disappear?
Yeah, I mean, every morning when I get...
are the evil...
It's not necessarily... No, I don't think other media is radio's downfall. I think that the changing way that people feel where they need to spend their money, because people are so confused about where to put their
advertising
right now. And because the radio world doesn't know sometimes what people are interested in. So they're automatically thinking ratings. And so every morning when I go into work and my key fob still works, I'm like, I still have a job today, because with radio DJs, they can come in any morning after our show and say thanks and kick us out. Mm-hmm. When I was a promotions director, I had way more of a secured job. But DJs, like, they can fire you any day at any time if they feel like they could get better ratings out of someone else.
Because if they can switch programming or switch...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The good thing about me at the B right now and Mike, who I love working with, like the best morning show partner ever, is that we're the least paid morning show on the air. So they would be stupid to fire us because we're not really taking any money out of their pockets.
So, I mean, if you're worried about ratings and stuff, I mean, you're probably worried about constantly promoting yourself, getting yourself out there.
Which is funny because we get hired to promote other people, but we, especially with social media these days, we have to think just as hard as everyone else how to promote our product. And so because we don't have huge budgets and we're not a huge show compared to most shows in Utah, like Facebook for us is huge because our demographic is all on Facebook.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is at the end of the year, social media rankings came out of New York, and our Facebook page, who only has 8,000 followers, was number 1 in Cumulus Media this year. Little B98.7 in Salt Lake City because we had the most engagement and reach with our audience. So it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 people that follow you on Facebook.
If there's no engagement.
If they like you but they're not following you. If they like you but they're not engaging with you, because a lot of people can push the like button all day long, but they don't actually do anything with your page. So what has happened, and a lot of it's been Mike, he is like really great at our Facebook page, because I do a lot of other Facebook pages, is that we have to know every day constantly who it is we're talking to. We know specifically who our demographic is, and it's not a bunch of people. It's one person.
Like, you actually know your listeners.
It's one person. We have given her a name. She has an age. We know how many kids she has. We know who we're talking to. And Mike is her older brother, and I'm her younger, annoying sister. And we know. So when we come up with content and we come up with different things that we're doing, we are talking directly to her or her best friends. If you think that you're going to get out there and build your product because you think you're going to talk to this mass of people,
you guys are using a persona model.
Yeah.
That's a product model.
Yes.
Wow, that's brilliant.
And it works for what we do.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everyone. You really need to know what works for you. And because of that, our little Facebook page that we just broke, I think 9,000 followers last month, was number 1 in the nation for Cumulus Media. We beat New York.
That's good.
So we may not have the highest ratings here in Utah, but social media wise, we're touching a lot of people. Not in a bad way.
Do you guys use other social media outlets or apps?
We use Twitter. Like, all of the stuff we put on Facebook automatically goes to Twitter, and I will Instagram every once in a while. But our demographic uses Facebook more than any other social media product. So Facebook Lives and,
You do Facebook Lives there at the radio?
We do. Oh, yeah. We'll do Facebook Lives when we're on the show.
Like every day? So people...
not every day.
Not every day.
Yeah.
So I'll put the link. I'll put the link for B98.7
yeah,
on.
I'm like, look, I didn't wear makeup again today, and they think it's funny.
So what do you think of podcasts? I know you're thinking of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to bring that up here on this. I mean, I can always edit that out if you want.
No, that's
but
fine.
What do you want to do a podcast about? What?
So when I started working with Mike on B98.7, and we had been working together for about 6-7 months, and our show in between the show is a lot more interesting than the show. However, it's not appropriate for the show that we're on. Mm-hmm. So I made a page that I'm not going to talk about here on Facebook that is for those inappropriate thoughts, and it's a secret group. I now have a Facebook page for myself that's called Seemingly Appropriate Mom. And
I follow that page.
That's me.
So I was not aware
because I feel like where like people seem to think, and I've made them think this way about me, because when I worked at Radio Disney and all these places, that I have branded myself on even my personal Facebook page so that I have trained them to think these certain ways about me. However, that's only one part of me. And so this podcast will be talking about all the things that you're not supposed to talk about.
On the radio.
Anywhere. Yeah, it could be anything. So it's going to be called Seemingly Appropriate Podcast, because you think people are appropriate and you talk about things, but sometimes it gets inappropriate.
Have you recorded it all, or are you still kind of in the process?
Yeah, in the process of kind of figuring it out and, buying all the things and So, and kind of getting the guts to do it, because sometimes when I post things that are not what people are expecting of me on Facebook, they get a little angry now, because I have been this way for a while. And I've had people like really angry, like, Valerie, you're not supposed to say those things and you're not supposed to think those things because you worked at Disney and you've made us think that you're this person. And, and it's really hard sometimes I have to compartmentalize who I am to different people.
Which is tough, but that's what you have to do when you're in a public setting.
It is, but it's exhausting. And I have decided that other than B98.7, in the rest of my life, I'm slowly trying to circulate in the rest of who I am. And it takes a long time when you have created something for such a long time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Do you think that will affect your job at B97?
There won't ever be anything that's on a page that people that do that radio that know that persona will see, per se. Okay. I mean, I'm not ever just going to like go and
start vomiting stuff all over the
no.
Facebook
I mean,
page.
we all have those moments. And I've been trying to be a little more filter free with a lot of my posts. So every once in a while, about once a quarter, I will kind of have like a confession, and people are starting to like those a little bit more. And so they kind of get to know me a little bit more. So I think it's easing in there, and the people that don't like it, then they can unfollow or unfriend me or unlike me.
Have you had anyone express gratitude for being more authentic?
Oh yeah. I don't think I haven't been authentic, because I really do, my life at Disney and it taught me so much, and I really was that person for a long time, but you grow into different people, and that is a part of me. But I swear,
It's just not the whole.
I have a sailor mouth sometimes.
I think most people do, right? But we still censor ourselves in like TV and radio.
There's appropriate situations.
Yeah, and I love talking about religion, and I love talking about politics, and I love talking about history, and people are like, we just want you to talk about flowers and unicorns and Star Wars,
Because that's safe and happy.
Because that's what I've been doing. Yeah. That's what they expect. That's what they come to me to get. Right. Is they like to follow all of the places that I go and the events that I do and the pictures. And I'm their escape, which when you finally realize that, it's really weird.
Yeah.
And getting on the radio and knowing that 400,000 to 800,000 people know you and you don't know any of them, that's really weird as well. So I've had this like awakening the last year and a half that has also caused depression, because you kind of feel like your time is not your own and your person is not your own.
Do you feel a lot of weight? Like when you meet people, they expect something out of you that you don't know? They want me
to be on all the time. Yeah. And I used to not care because I loved it. Like I was it was like gave me a high, but something happened a year and a half ago, and it just, my body's like, no, we're done. My brain's like, no, we're done.
So what are you doing then to change all that?
So I got asked to be the festival director for the Pride Festival in 2016.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was very honored to get asked to do that. And Brian Brandenburg from Salt Lake Comic-Con was on the board, and they needed someone. And I was done with FantasyCon and he said, you need to call Valerie because she's great at logistics. You need to hire her. So they called me and I interviewed, and I thought, this is fantastic. I was working at the Bee in the morning, but I'm like, I can still do this, right? Once I got in there and I met everyone and I saw the situation of what the Pride needed, I knew I wasn't right for it. And I told them that. I said, I don't think I'm the right person for this job. And they said, we really want you. And I said, okay, I will do it. And something happened during Pride, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of emotions. The cool thing about Pride and in Utah, it's so needed. But you think you're an advocate, and because you've been there. You don't have any idea until you get in to how much people need Pride, the Pride Center and Pride Festival, and how much it means to them. And I'm just getting in trying to order toilets and fencing and color, volunteer shirts and all of that. And just because I was operations didn't mean I was any less part of the emotional healing and moving forward that they needed. And I wasn't ready for that. And it was exhausting emotionally. Like physically, I can work all day. I can work 21-hour days. Like I can set up fences, whatever you need me to do. But the emotion that came behind that was something that I wasn't prepared for. And I think what it did is it kind of poked a little hole in this wall that I had been building of I can do this and this and that and this, and I don't need to pay attention to the world around me because I've created this world, right? And we do that when we start putting together our lives and our businesses. We're not paying attention because we're so focused, and it kind of poked a little hole, and that little hole kind of let everything that I had not paid attention to in my personal life for the last 10 years because I'd been working, and I just kind of went, okay. And I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown. Yeah. And I said, I have to stop. So I finished out Pride and I closed my business and I said, I'm just going to do the radio station. And I'm going to spend time with my daughter and my husband and my dog. And that's what I'm going to do. And I just I spent all last summer, I turned down every job. I turned down probably, and this hurts to say it out loud, about $18,000 during the summer for jobs. Oh, wow. And I spent that time on my couch and at the dog park.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, though. Sometimes you have to say no.
It was the best thing I'd ever done.
Yeah, just that self-care.
Yeah. But you think because when you run your own business and when you're trying to constantly move forward and promote yourself, I always tell people, and I would tell them, I would go talk to schools and classes and all of these things. And I'm like, there's always an opportunity. Don't ever say no to an opportunity that could happen. Always go to the meeting because you never know.
You never know who could see you or who you could meet.
And because I went to all these meetings, all these opportunities happen to me. I've had a fantastic life and I'm 38. All the things that I've gotten to do to this point that I didn't plan on any of them have been fantastic. But at some point you have to stop and say, you're doing too much. Mm-hmm. And my body, I wasn't seeing it. My body said, we're not letting you do it anymore. So I took the time off and I just focused on the radio. And a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, you know what we need to do? We need to bring this Harry Potter convention to Utah. And I'm like, no, we don't. One, if you bring in another huge convention into Utah, they're going to come in, you're going to do all the work, they're going to make all the money, they're going to leave. Okay. Right. Plus, we have Comic-Con and they're already doing what they need to do. There doesn't need to be another one. And I said, I'm done doing these big events. I've ran so many people's big events. And I said, how about this? How about we put together a small, intimate event and we really focus it on community, on fantasy, on education and literacy? Because every nerd that I know has gotten there because of a book.
It all starts with the love of reading.
One of our hashtags is it all started with a book. It wasn't Harry Potter for me. It was The Hobbit. It was Lord of the Rings. I read that in elementary school over and over until they told me your name's on the little sign out card too much. You need to let somebody else read this book. And I'm like, fine. And I'd go get, Wrinkle in Time or, something like that. And so, but for a lot of people, Harry Potter was the book that got them through whatever it was. And I said, so if we do this and we give a portion to charity and we never have it huge, I said, I will do it with you. And so we put it together and we had our first year this year and it was a small, intimate, fun event. And I was walking around the event and everybody's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop because every event I had ever worked, something bad happens. A lot of bad things happen because
there's a lot of moving
40%.
Well, especially the first year. You said this was the first year. This is Wizarding Dayz, right?
Wizarding Dayz. Yeah. The first year is always going to be the first 3 years are rocky, right? And I'm walking around. I mean, we had things little things happen, whatever, little things happen, but nothing big. And I'm just walking around and everybody's like, I'm just like, I'm waiting, nothing horrible, no big shoe dropped. And we didn't lose money. If we wouldn't have donated $2,000 to charity, we would have made $25 our first year.
There you go.
No event that I have ever worked for has been less than $10,000 in the red.
Wow.
And we would have made $25 if we wouldn't have donated to charity.
That's impressive.
So I'm like, what's happening?
Did you stay anxious afterwards?
I'm
like,
still anxious because I don't understand why it's kind of easy. Like it's hard work, but because I've done so many events and because Carrie is so fantastic, Carrie's my business partner, and we're both totally opposite. So we fill all the, the holes, and we have fantastic volunteers and, people, community partners. It's just crazy that it could work. But the crazy thing is everybody keeps telling us, oh, it's going to get so big. You guys are going to be great. And I'm like, I don't want it to get, why is it now? Everybody thinks that if you don't sell 50,000 to 100,000 tickets to something, you're not succeeding. I don't want to do that.
You have a different version of success.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Where was the convention at?
It's at Southtown, which is now Mountain America Expo Center, which is Southtown Expo Center. And we had one hall last year, or this year, I guess, 2017. In 2018, we'll have one hall again. We've already paid money down for 2019, which will have 2 halls, which that is the goal. 2 halls, 2 days, no more than 10,000 people rotating through the weekend. Our first year, we had 2,500 people that rotated through the weekend. I'm hoping for like 4,000 this year.
What sets this convention apart than, like, say, a Comic-Con or?
I think it's just because we're not trying to be everything to everyone. The cool thing about a pop culture convention is, regardless, you can just bring whatever in that everyone loves. So we are good, and it's kind of hard at the same time because we're very specific to fantasy. And all of our vendors have to fit into that criteria. So you're not going to see a car dealership there unless they're a sponsor. But if they're a sponsor, even all the sponsors has to do something hands-on and interactive that deals with one of our 4 things, which is fantasy, education, STEM, or charity. If you don't fit into one of those things, you can't be a vendor at our event. We have a waiting list. We're sold out. We were sold out 3 months before. Well, now 4 months before we even start 2018, we're sold out for vendors because we are so specific and we're really dedicated to one type of fan, they know what they're going to get when they come in.
Yeah, it's good. You found a niche, and I think that's a little bit harder because everybody does want to reach as many people as possible and go as broad as possible.
Well, this is the thing: is my daughter is 16 years old, and I've been running events her whole life, and been in public. And she comes to work with me. She has anxiety. She can't do big conventions, which is totally ironic. And she hates going to the movies, which that's a wholly different conversation because I love the movies. And so she can be at Wizarding Dayz. And Carrie's son, it has autism. And so we have safe places in the event that if it's too crowded or too loud, you can go and read a book. You can go sit in a quiet place, but you're going to learn something there. You're going to escape into the world that you love of fantasy. And 10% of every single dollar that comes into Wizarding Dayz is donated back to community charities that were nominated by the community. So
when is the next Wizarding Dayz for people listening?
February 23rd and 24th, 2018. Tickets are on sale now. Wizardingdayz.com, and it's Dayz with a Z.
Okay. And I'll put that link at imsaltlake.com with this show too. If you didn't get that.
That sounds like a great place. I'm just like, oh man,
you should take the kids there.
I should because
I mean that's right up your alley.
I do have a boy too who loves
Harry
that stuff,
Potter,
but he gets overstimulated. Yeah. So Comic-Con does get too much,
and I love it. But I can go to Comic-Con by myself. Like I don't need like a bunch of people. I'm just there. But yeah, I mean, so I think there's the great thing about Utah and Salt Lake is that there is something for everyone here. We might be small, but we're like huge in the amounts of things that you can do. So this is just one thing in the millions of things. And we know that we're just that one little thing in this millions of things. But our goal is a small goal. So,
Now the convention's more on the south end of the valley. Has that affected anything or not really?
No. The cool thing about Utah, you guys know this, is that usually if you've driven farther than 45 minutes, you've driven too far.
Yeah. That is the thing. Is everything
I went to school in California, and you'd be driving 45 minutes to get 5 minutes down the road. So we've got it really lucky. We're really lucky here.
Yeah. So it isn't. It's not like it's too far.
No.
It's a good central spot. You can get Utah Valley. You can get Salt Lake
parking
Valley.
is free. Trax is right there. So.
Let's kind of switch gears to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about that, is like, say somebody was visiting Salt Lake, what would you tell them to do or check out? I ask this on every person that comes on the show.
If you're coming to Salt Lake and you're not coming here to be outdoors, then you're probably coming for a convention, because there are so many conventions here. Like the Salt Palace is booked all the time doing stuff. But I mean, outdoors, I wish I got outdoors more than I do, but I mean, it's beautiful here.
It's hard to get out there all the time and take advantage. Money, time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool because it's so close. I mean, you can snowboard and golf in the same day. I don't golf, but you know.
But if you did.
I used to snowboard and play soccer in the same day, you know. And so I think if you need to get outdoors, you definitely need to see that. I think our cute little downtown is a cute little downtown now. It's taken a long time for us to get there. It's taken a minute
to get there, and it was a ghost town for a while.
It's a cute little downtown. I think people should definitely go there. Go to any arts thing that you can. We have so many talented dancers, singers, artists, you know, art galleries that are all just like shoved into this state that it's crazy, you know. So I think, any art thing you can go to is fantastic.
If you could change something about Salt Lake?
Right now, the air. I would change the air. You know what? I think it's all change. Everything that I would want to change about it is happening. You know, we are becoming, you know, where we're more of a 50-50 state when it comes to conservatism. And even the conservatives are getting to the point where it's not just being, other people aren't just tolerated anymore, but they're celebrated by a lot of people that are conservative in this state. I think it's fantastic with the LGBTQ community and how that's growing. Like, that's something I would have changed 10 years ago, is to help that progress. It's already happening. Like, I feel like everything that I wasn't happy with Utah it's kind of happening now.
It's happening. Sadly, it's a little slower than other states.
Except for we were the first state to have
at the same time, it's kind of cool.
Marriage,
it's kind of cool to be part of it, though.
Yes, it is very cool that my daughter, who is 16, is growing up in a way different place than I grew up in, because I moved here from Colorado and I was Catholic and I didn't know.
Was it tough growing up Catholic here?
It was a little bit tough. I mean, I was told.
Especially that long ago.
Yeah. I know. I'm so old.
Well, that came out wrong. That came out wrong. But you know what I mean?
10 years ago, it was very different.
It's still hard if you're not of the dominant religion, then you get shunned by people.
My daughter has never had the experience that kids wouldn't play with her because she didn't go to their same church. My daughter hasn't had the experience where she was told in first grade that she was going to go to hell. You know, my daughter didn't have those. And I know some people still do here. I'm not saying that it's totally fixed, but my daughter grew up, she went to the same elementary school that I went to. And it was totally different than when I got there, you know, and I totally enjoyed my childhood here. You know, but I didn't know what religion was until I moved here. I thought everybody went to the same church every week.
You remember when we've got labeled as a liberal podcast? It's because
why am I here?
It's because of
under attack.
Yeah. We've gotten a few one-star reviews saying we're too liberal, and it's because of this conversation.
It is because
I'm giving you a hard time.
Well,
but I think
it's an important conversation, because I have watched Catholic kids get really shunned.
You know what, though? It was really hard for me to be a Catholic here, and I'm not a Catholic anymore here, because I feel like anytime you have a dominant religion in any place, if I went to Boston and I tried to be a Mormon in Boston, it would be totally different than being a Mormon here.
Exactly.
But Catholics here and I've had a lot of experience because I went to Catholic school and I was baptized, and I was really I drank the Kool-Aid for a long time. Very defensive. They're on the defense. And I wasn't very happy with the way some Catholics were treating other religions because they were on the defense, you know? So I think it's growing and it's changing with every aspect of it. I'm not just putting down any religion, but I just think
the general acceptance
of where Utah and where Salt Lake is going is going in the right place. It's taken a while, but I think that people can now speak out. People can go and say things. Social media has made it a lot better. You know, there's still a lot of things to work on, but the fact that people can feel safe now in Utah to stand up and say that they're different is a long way from where I was a kid, a long way from when my dad was a kid here.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm really excited with the Utah that my daughter is experiencing, the Salt Lake that my daughter is experiencing.
What about favorite local eating spots?
Places
that you like to eat
I
at?
love food, so this could take a while.
Top
I want to do
five.
a food podcast where I just go get to eat and talk about food. I love El Chihuahua.
Okay.
Mainly because I like to drink the big drinks, and then I like to saunter across the street to Cruisers and do really bad karaoke.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Cruisers is good karaoke.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they don't care. It's a bunch of old guys, and they're playing pool, and it doesn't even matter, right?
That's what all karaoke should be.
Yes. Some of the places that I love are gone now. I used to love Goosey's, had like the best burger, the Hawaiian
Goosey's.
burger.
I've never heard of it, but maybe some of our older listeners.
Place. It was a teeny tiny little place. And it had a motorcycle on top, and they made their fries right there. Like there was potatoes everywhere.
Was that downtown?
Yeah, it was right. It was on 8th by.
Yes. I remember driving
and now
by
it's like a sushi burrito.
Yes.
Something
yes,
like that.
I know exactly. There's a 7-Eleven right across the street, kind of.
Now, I love the Ichiban that's on State Street and 3600 South. It is a hole-in-the-wall Ichiban. Everything's half off all the time. If you go there, order the Yu-Yu. You will thank me. You will message me and you will say, thank you, Valerie, for telling me about the
Can
Yu-Yu.
we get your number so that we can message you?
You can, or Facebook,
555.
whichever. But like eating the Yu-Yu, when I have a bad day, I will go over to Ichiban. The one on Fort Union's fine, but the one on 36th and State Street is fantastic. And you're going to think it's really cold in there, and you're going to think this place looks really weird and the food's not going to be good. It's the best sushi I've had in Utah, and I've eaten a lot of sushi here.
Have you been there,
Yu-Yu.
I don't think I've been to that one.
I'll take you there.
Let's do it.
Right.
And you won't ever spend more than $30 and you'll be full.
Which is so nice.
There
Because
you
when
go.
I go to Tsunami.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to tell you, get
a
the
lot more.
Yu-Yu, get the super spicy, get the Ichiban.
Okay. Well, write that
me.
down.
You'll
Write
thank
that down.
me.
And rewind it. Hit the
Good.
back
Less
15
decision
seconds.
making. More eating.
One more favorite
Yeah.
food place there, Val. What do you got?
I don't know. I mean, because it usually is like Ichiban.
Who do you think makes the best burger?
Oh, that's a big loaded question.
That is a loaded
I'm not
question.
like
You can't even throw that out there.
Why not?
You
Why
can't
can't I throw that
I'm
out there?
not a huge
Okay.
burger person.
Okay,
I mean,
fair
I
enough.
like them. I like In-N-Out Burger, but however, so the Porcupine, not the new one in Sugar House, although they're amazing, but the Porcupine up close to the mountains,
Yeah.
they have the best nachos
Yeah,
ever.
that
All right,
plate is
let's go with nachos.
ridiculous off
it's
the
big
hook.
as your face.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's huge. Bigger than your face.
Yeah.
Bigger than your face.
I love their nachos.
Big as my laptop.
I love their nachos.
Just huge. Huge.
This table.
Huge. Can you imagine a plate of nachos as big as this table?
That would be the best day
Is there
ever.
anything else that we didn't talk about, Valerie, that we need to talk about that you want to promote? I'll put all we'll go down some website links. We got the
you can put all those
radio,
up there. Yeah,
Wizarding Dayz.
Wizarding Dayz, Seemingly Appropriate Mom.
Can
I'm
people
trying
go to
grow-
that
They
website
can go to
now?
that Facebook or the website. Yep.
And
And I
what
don't
are-
blog as much as I want to right now because again, if I don't want to on a day, I won't.
Sure. Well, let's go down the
But,
list how people
yeah.
can find you and get a
So
hold of you.
I do have a Valerie Cameron Facebook page, which is like where I share my radio stuff there. I share my favorite movies, my favorite music, all of that kind of stuff. What I'm doing with Wizarding Dayz, I'll share there. And then Seemingly Appropriate Mom on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or .com. You can do all that. And then Wizarding Dayz is probably the biggest thing. I really want people we want to support the community. And we buy things locally and we support other events and we give back to charity and we really, really need people to buy tickets.
Yeah.
Like that's our biggest thing right
I
now.
would say introverts
please
run
help
to
us
this place.
stay alive by buying a ticket and they're not expensive. So
Well, and one thing I want to say on that note that you bring that up, one thing I notice about Utahns is we all wait till the last minute to buy
we
tickets.
do.
And
when we're driving there, we're deciding, you know what, we're going to go.
we don't understand the importance for like an event, how important it is to know how many people are coming. So
Yeah.
buy your tickets early. It
Especially
helps
when our vendors are sold out
fund it.
and we
Yeah.
really need people to
Yeah.
buy tickets.
'Cause it's
So.
show up.
Yeah, just go and I mean, I know how it is with events. I've
Yeah.
tried to do it and you go,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's coming.
Well, there's
And
so many
it's-
events in Salt Lake
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're always like on a given day, you're like, okay, there's 5 things. Which one should we go to? So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of
Yeah.
planning
Yeah.
necessary sometimes.
Yeah,
for
you just get your
that event.
tickets. Get
Yeah,
your
just
tickets.
go buy a
Get your
ticket.
tickets.
Okay, get your tickets. They're inexpensive. Kids 5 and under are free. Kids 6 to 12 are $5.
Oh, there you go. There
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
an easy
There's
fun
so
thing
much
to go
free
do.
stuff to do there as well. Like we have a ton of free stuff. There are like free activities that would take you hours to do. Your kids' hours. Don't just drop your kids off though, unless they're teenagers. But we're not going to babysit your kids. That's another thing I don't like about Utah.
Were you running into that last time?
I run into it every year that I do events.
Really?
People
drop their kids
in
off.
Utah, and I'm sorry because I've lived in Utah the most in my life, but I feel like, and I got this a lot with Disney, is that there's another adult in the room, so I can just have my kid be there and not supervise them. And we want free stuff. We don't want to pay for anything. And we'll just watch our kid.
That kind of is very cultural here.
Don't think that other people are going to supervise your kids. You know what it is when it's great to go to an event like this is you actually get to spend a couple of hours with your kids doing something. And then they're going to go home and they're going to plug into whatever thing. Like, this is the time for you to do that. Take your kids, and Utah's a great place. Take your kids and do things with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like if you're not going to supervise them, don't supervise them at home because there's doors.
Yeah.
And they're safe there, hopefully. But when you're out in public, supervise your kids. Yeah.
Well, I'm so stoked that we finally got you on the podcast.
Thank you I was watching when you used to be on Periscope. I don't know if you're on there. I thought Periscope was going to be huge.
Yeah. Gosh, it's funny. You actually brought that up.
We were just talking about doing Periscope last night.
I was
talking about the other day. Should I get back on Periscope? Does anybody
it's still through like Twitter and stuff.
That's what I asked Chris. I was like, does anyone really Periscope
I listen to NPR. I'm a total NPR listener. Yeah. And the BBC will Periscope as they do their radio show. Still. So I think it's more of a news thing. Like Twitter's more of news.
Yeah.
That is so interesting because my daughter's on Twitter, my 13-year-old, and I was asking her.
Wait, she's on Twitter?
Yeah. And she's like, everybody's on Twitter, Mom. So all of her friends are on Twitter. And I said, do you go there for news? Like, why are you on, like, what do you do? What do you do on Twitter? And she's like, well, there's so many funny people. Yeah. And then when I said, well, people my age use it for news, she was like, there's news on Twitter. Like that was totally blew her mind.
So here's one Twitter account you should follow. It's called The Last Blockbuster.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I think
everybody should also follow Endless Screaming.
Endless Screaming.
Okay,
so it just kind of randomly, if you follow it, shows up in your news feed, and it's usually pretty appropriate. You just see screaming in between.
Oh, that's
tweets.
Funny.
It's pretty great.
Somebody has too much time on their hands.
Somebody's genius.
Well, thank you though. Like, I used to be like one of the ones on your thing. Hey, it's Val. Periscope. This is going to be huge one day, Periscope.
Hey, let's bring it back.
Yeah, let's do it. Just the three of us.
So, anyway, thank you so much. We'll put all the links to get in touch with you at iamsaltlake.com with this episode. And I always tell people, we'll catch up down the road, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you.
All right. Many thanks again to Valerie Cameron-Walker for coming on this episode of the podcast. Make sure to reach out and connect with her. Let her know you heard her on this podcast. Tell her hello. Listen to her. She's on Monday through Friday on 98.7 here in Salt Lake City. We're going to put all the links to connect with her and all that at iamsaltlake.com/310 for episode 310.
And while you're there, take a peek around and look at some of the back episodes of the podcast.
I think you set it up pretty nice on the website, Chrissy, how you have it all.
So too.
For people listening that are unfamiliar, Chrissy's the mastermind behind the website.
I'm the nerd.
And you kind of set it up with different categories.
Yeah, you can find stuff you're interested in and then find the people within that area who are here in Salt Lake doing stuff.
Entertainment, comedians, food trucks, all of that. But go check out. I mean, there's over 300 episodes there. There's got to be one or two.
You're going to find someone interesting you want to listen about.
Hey, Chrissy, it's the first of the month. It's the brand new month, which means it's time to give some love to our Patreon supporters. These are the people that help support the show. You know, it's interesting because without the sponsors of the podcast and without our Patreon supporters and the people that give the one-time donations, we couldn't keep doing this podcast.
Yeah, we'd be screwed.
I mean, all of you all are who's keeping the show alive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously. Our Patreon supporters are very much appreciated. I want to read down the list though. We got some great guys, some great gals, I guess too. John Miller, Ryan Prince, Brandy Burnham, Riley Padilla, Zach Shutt, Brandon Hill from Mountain Standard Time Marketing, Will Dugdale, Jared Aguilar, Brittany Hemingway, Jeff Hadfield, Michael Beck, Eric Tomorrow, Nicole Davison, Max Allen, Jeff Hatt, Kevin Lindstrom, John and Nikki from over in New Zealand, Three Irons SLC, and Alex Santee, Alan Martindale, Sana, Zell Lee, Dirt in Your Skirt Podcast, Christopher Heiser, and Jay Chambers. Man, that's a list of...
those are our peeps.
Which I wanted to say, actually, Alex Santee, we met him when we recorded this interview that we played with Valerie Cameron-Walker.
He was hanging out with us.
Yeah, so it was really cool. Him and I have been Facebook friends for a while. I'm like, hey, why don't you come over to...
I love it when people get to come and actually enjoy the recordings with us. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, invited him over here to come over here for a recording, but it was cool to meet him. But I mean, that is a list of people that are supporting the show.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to become a Patreon supporter, go to iamsaltlake.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. Or patreon.com/IamSaltLake. Doesn't matter. I mean, seriously, $1 goes a long ways to keep the show supported, and keep the show.
Just get it out of your couch cushions every month. Send it over.
But that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, to this episode, to the podcast, for subscribing, for telling your family and friends, leaving reviews. For being you. I mean, we couldn't do it without you guys listening.
We absolutely couldn't.
To the podcast. So you guys have a great week. Let's have a great year, you guys.
And good night, Grammy.